Yeah, hello all. Good morning. Let's wait for a couple of more minutes. Does anyone want to speak? If so, can raise your hands. If you have any doubts on the course and so yeah. Okay, so let's start the session. Yeah, good morning all. So today we'll be seeing booting procedure, and this is the day two of the demo session. Okay, so yeah. First of all, when you can you guys confirm you guys can see my screen? Awesome. Okay, so booting procedure, right? First thing is when you turn on your system, like within 1 to 2 minutes, you'll be seeing your login screen, right? So what is the process happens in between? So that is like the very important thing for a sysadmin, right? So he must know what happens in between. So we will see step by step. So the very first thing is power on. So after power on, there is a step called as post. So what is a post is power on self test. So what that means is, so let's say, let- test. So let me take image of a motherboard. Okay, so all these components, right, you can see here. So the very first thing it will do is it will check whether the power is supplied to all the components, right? So let's say the north bridge, south bridge, and inside that there will be a different components, right? So your memory and your CPU, everything should or must get the uh, just a sec. Let me share my screen fully. Yeah, so you can see here, right? So any motherboard you take, the very first thing it does is you must it will do the post. Okay, so power on self test. So if something is failing here, you might see like in MSI boards, you will have this easy debug like that, which means it is nothing but a red light. Like something goes wrong, it will show that red light in the motherboard, or there would be error code here, right? So it can't proceed further if that is failing. Let's say if this memory itself is failing. So these are all your memory sticks or sorry, this is your memory sticks and this is your GPU, let's say. So your GPU is failing. So you can't get this graphical user interface, right? So like in order to avoid that, to like moving forward, it won't even turn on, right? So it will be stuck in this post only. So only when the post is okay, it will be proceeding further. So the next step would be, yeah, BIOS, right? So Okay, yeah. I guess I shared the whole screen, Prabhudas. So now I guess you might see it. So now, like the next thing it will boot is BIOS. So what is BIOS, right? So you can see here, BIOS is a basic input output system, which means that is the first thing it loads. Okay, so let me show you what is BIOS in our like VMware at least, because there are different companies has their own BIOS, like different like motherboard manufacturers has their own BIOS, right? So let me show you. Let me restart my system. Because if you know this booting procedure only, we can see the next question like resetting the root password, right? And we'll be seeing this installation after this booting procedure. So just press F2 while you are here. It will boot to the, you might see the screen, right? Press F2 to go to the setup. So this is your actual BIOS screen in your VMware. So mostly it will be used, this is the vendor, so Phoenix BIOS. And you can see all the basic information in your system or your server, right? So your system time and date, and if you have like uh, 2 to 3 hard disk, it will be listed here, and what is your system's memory, right? So everything you can see here, and you can change the different parameters, right? So how, or this is for virtual BIOS. So let me, yeah, so MSI BIOS screen, you can see here, right? Yeah. So you can see your CPU speed, your memory speed, every info you can see here, right? So, and what is the booting order? So that is very, very important in your BIOS. So what is a boot order is nothing but, let's say, how or which one to be booted at first, right? So this is your boot order. So let's say you have a bootable pen drive. You want to change your operating system, right? So you need to install it via booting to the pen drive, right? That is the one of the way. So in order to change the boot order, so you need to make sure the pen drive is the first one, right? So then you need to boot your hard disk. So if the pen drive is a bootable disk or it is configured as a bootable, it will be right away booting to the installation. If not, it will be it won't boot to that, right? So that boot order is this one. So boot priority you can see, right? So almost everywhere it will be like a OS manager, it would be listed as, or your hard disk name, it would be like gigabyte or what is the hard disk vendor, and it will be named like that, right? So that is your BIOS, and you have a lot of options in your BIOS. Again, you can do overclocking, and so that is like mostly we won't do, but if you want, you can do the overclocking in your that is the only way or only place you need to overclock your CPU or memory to use its full potential, right? So you need to overclock it. So all this can be done in your BIOS, right? So you can even see your fan speed, everything you can see here, almost everything, right? So again, if your BIOS is failing, like let's say you made a wrong configuration of your CPU speed, right? So in my case, let me show you my task manager. Yeah, so my base speed is 3 gigahertz, right? So let's say I set it to 4, but my CPU doesn't even support 4, right? If I save it and boot it, again it will boot loop and come back to the BIOS, which means it doesn't take that change, right? So that is the very important thing. So if your BIOS is corrupted, that's it. Again, you need to reset the BIOS, right? So in order to reset the BIOS, you need to remove the CMOS battery and do so. So, Again, this is too much technical we are going in, but you get the point, right? So this is the boot order. Boot order. Yeah. So it will, your server or your system would follow this boot order, right? Proceeding further. Let's say it is booting to the hard disk, right? So after that, what it should do, right? So after that, it will look for the MBR. So what is MBR is master boot record, right? So what that means. So let me show you. You anyhow, I'll be sharing this slide so you can read all these details later, but the crux of it I will be explaining you now so that easily you can understand how it works. Okay, so any hard disk, it will be divided into different sectors. Okay, so it can be even your SSD will be like having different sectors. So what is a sector is, let's say a, a collection of your kilobyte or megabyte will be like, let's say depends on the hard disk size, right? So let's say you are this is a 1 TB hard disk, 1 TB HDD. HDD is your hard disk, and if you see SSD, it is solid state, right? So again, it is a storage, right? So yeah, so you will be having a different one. So let's say this one. So this is your master boot record. Okay, so the first sector, let's say this is the first sector. Okay, and it will be the master boot record, which means like the you selected the hard disk. The what is the first thing it should load, right? So like first thing it should load is the MBR. So what does MBR has is, so MBR would have your Grub. So we'll come to Grub the next thing, but the MBR is again a small size it would be, right? So it again depends on the server, right? So you can see here, right? MBR is less than 512 bytes. It is not even a size of a like a normal image, right? So yeah, it will be very small in size, and the very important thing it has is the Grub. So what is a Grub is the next step. Yeah, Grub would be, yeah. Yeah, slides will be sent via, I guess, mail, or was it slide not uploaded in the portal? I will check with that, Mike. Okay, so yeah. So the next thing it will boot is the Grub. So let me show you what is the Grub screen in your this one. Okay, you can see this is the boot order, right? So in our case, the right away it is booting to the removable device. Let's say I connected my ISO to this. So like, so let's say the CD-ROM is the first one. I kept it. So it will right away boot to the ISO rather than your hard disk, right? So this is my boot drive. So this NVMe is my boot drive, which means it has the operating system, right? So yeah, all these are different hard disks. So anyhow, we'll see that later. So let me exit this one and show you the Grub screen. So as we already saw, so the first thing is it will look for the BIOS. You can see here, right? So you can see now it right away booted to the CD drive. Why? Because we set that so, because like in that boot order, the CD drive was the removable disk was the first one, right? So you need to make sure which hard disk you need to boot, right? So let me come to boot and set this hard disk as the And I already know this NVMe is my hard disk, means like my system. So I need to make sure this NVMe is moved forward. So the system must boot to this very first disk, right? So that is the importance of boot order. So if you change it, of course, it will follow that boot order, right? So yeah, exit saving changes. So you can see now it didn't show the previous screen. Why? Because that it tried to boot to this CD drive, right? So but it should not. So that is the reason we changed it. Okay, so how to move it to the first? So it depends on like the system, Gautami. So I just press minus and plus in your keyboard, right? So yeah, minus and plus. Again, it depends on the servers. So it might even have F5 and F6. So like in the right pane, you saw that like you might see that instruction how to move that, right? So you can follow that. So this is your grub screen. So what is the grub screen again is? So let me explain it to you. So grub is nothing but, let's say you have dual boot. So you might have came across this term called as dual boot, right? So what is a dual boot then? So of course you won't right away boot to the both servers or both operating systems. So what is a dual boot is, let's say you have Windows in one, like you have Windows like a bootable disk, as well as you have Linux or RHEL, let's say. Okay, so you have this in the same server or even same hard disk, right? So the very first thing after the hard disk, it like it will look for the grub. So what that grub does is, moving forward, which one to be booted, right? So this is like you need to make a choice, right? So either you want to boot to the Windows, means it will boot, or it will initialize all the required drivers and so kernel, everything, or you need to boot it to the Linux or RHEL, right? So which one to be booted first? So for that particular session, that particular operating system will be running, right? So for the time being, so that is the thing. Your grub is like you need to select that one, which one to be executed or booted. So after that, it will be booting to the kernel. So this is the important one. So I will show you what is the kernel by clicking. So you can see press E to edit the selected item. So let me show you what is your kernel. So this line, right? So if you made any typo in this line, yeah, your system will be like, it won't boot. So this is your kernel. Okay, so VM Linus, this is your kernel, and this is your boot image. Okay, so what that means is, how to say, like the kernel, it does have all the important drivers and library files. Okay, so you can see, right, it contains necessary drivers, a lot actually. It will have like what is the hard disk informations, like disk management, or you can see what and all you see in device manager, right? And all these steps are same for your Windows as well. So all this will be the same for even Windows. Okay, so in order to get to these components, it must have an intermediate driver, right? So that is the thing, it will be loaded in your kernel. Okay, so that is the importance of kernel. And yeah, so again, if your kernel is corrupted, it won't move further. So any process, if it is stuck, it won't boot to the system, and you might see an error. And if you Google or if you search for that error in the knowledge base, you can get to that. So okay, something is failing in the hardware level or kernel level, like that, right? So you can see the very first process in this slides is based on the Linux, right? So the very first process it will load is init. Okay, so the init process is the one, the process ID is 1. So it will be the like systemd process it is called as. Anyhow, we'll see that extensively later. But yeah, so that is the very first thing it will load in the kernel, right? So that would have, or the whole operating system depends on the very first process. Okay, so if that is failing, of course your system would fail in some time, right? So yeah. So this is your kernel. And it will load drivers, library files, HDD info, like that. So all the partition info, everything, it will be loaded in the kernel. So after that, you have init process. So init is the same in your, let me give a Windows example, system configuration. So just search for system config in your Windows. You can see a lot of option in your Windows as well. So let's say you click this boot, right? So you have safe boot or no GUI boot. So if you select this and apply and restart your system, even in your Windows 11 would become like a CLI. So the GUI won't load. So how I got this is just type system config. So you would see this one. So this is that option. So even in your Windows, you can select a different ways to boot, or yeah, so there is a safe boot option. So if you select this, so this is the safe boot menu basically. So what it does is, let me open the notebook for the notepad, right? So the init process is very important. Why? Because again, like based on the init process only, the system will be running for the time being. Let's say for, let's say 8 hours your work timing, right? So for that 8 hours, you will be using that run level or that init process, right? So here you might see this run level. So because the next process itself is run level. So both are kind of interlinked, your init and run level. So what is a run level is? So these are all the different run levels in your server, right? So 0 means init 0 is nothing but you just type init 0, which is like your shutdown. Okay, so and init 1 is your single user mode. So we'll be seeing single user mode later, which means like when we reset the root password, right? So single user mode is nothing but, let me even show you now. So anyhow, we'll do this tomorrow, or yeah, tomorrow we'll do this. But your emergency mode, it is called as in your Linux, or it is single user mode, which means only I can use this system for the time being, right? So if it is booted, it like if you have my IP, you can log into the same server. But this mode, right? So this is the console, and I only have the access to this. So that is the reason it is called a single user mode. And yeah, so that is your init 1. Okay, so it is single user mode. Okay, so after that init 2, which is your multi-user mode without NFS. So the same option you have in your Windows as well. So if you don't select this network, right? So it won't load the network drivers, and so the same goes for your Linux as well. The network drivers won't be loaded. So where this will be helpful is, let's say there is a ransomware virus in your Windows machine, right? So it when it connects to the internet, let's say it will collect the data and send it to the hacker also, right? So in order to avoid that, or in order to remove that virus altogether, you will use this multi-user mode without NFS, right? So that is the important part. And unfortunately, in Windows, you don't have a multi-user mode, right? So if you take a RDP session of your, like if you take for the same server, only one session for the current user, it can be used, right? So if it is a different user, of course, it multi-user is there, but yeah, the same user, he can't log in for the same server again, right? So, but in Linux, you can use the same, let's say root user. Remotely, you can connect like n number of session as you want. So that is the thing. And that is your init level 2 multi-user without network. Okay. So yeah, your init 3 is yeah with network. So multi-user mode with. So where did you saw, like even in your Windows, you can see this advanced boot option. So you might have seen this screen, right? So advanced boot option. Yeah. So you might have seen this screen, right? It is. Yeah. So let me. Yeah. So open the image in new tab. So you might have seen this screen, right? It is nothing but your init process. All these are, right? So you can see enable safe mode. That is nothing but your like your single user mode. Only you can use that your safe mode, and with network with command prompt. So you have this command prompt option in your Windows. Okay, so and yeah, so these are all the, like when you select this one, so it won't, like let's say in normal safe mode, your network won't be there, right? So if you want to enable with the network, it will be 5. You need to press the number 5, like yeah, F5 you need to press, right? So yeah, so any process is there in your Windows as well as your Linux. Okay, so init3 is nothing but your multi-user mode with network, and this is the most used mode, right? So init4 is not there, so we just ignore that. So X11. So X11 is nothing but your GUI mode. So the mode which we are currently using, right, in our server, it would be GUI, right? So GUI mode, and init6 is your reboot. So if you type init6, it will right away trigger the reboot option, right? So yeah. Yeah, it does allow Raj trigger, but right away it won't allow, right? So yeah, you need to change that option. So yeah. Yeah. So that is the thing. And yeah, typically it would be like init 3 or 5 it will be. So of course you need network drives, right? So we will be using, most cases it will be the run level is init 3. So how to check the run level is just type run level in your putty. So you just it will show you N3 or N5 like that. Okay, so yeah. So I hope everyone downloaded your ISO, and if so, you just like your VMware installation is as same as any software, right? So you just install that. So before that, let me complete this one. So can anyone confirm that like, did you downloaded the ISO so that this is your run level, right? So yeah, so again after the run level, you can see the process itself is a run level. What it means is, what are all the process or a program to be executed in that run level, right? So let's say you selected run level 5. So that is your GUI mode, right? So in while it boots to the GUI mode only, I need to run this, let's say a prompt that hello world, like that, a simple prompt. So like that, you can even define, like if you select the run level 5, you can define which process to be initiated once it is booted, right? So that is it is as similar as your startup process, right? So in your Windows, you have the startup apps, right? So similar way, like once the server is booted or your system is booted, you can see all this would be started running. So as same as this is the same concept is this run level. So it will right away boot to that process which you mentioned over here. Okay, so yeah, so with that, your run level or init I'll give. So both are similar here. Okay, so you're like let me know if you have any issues like while installing the VMware workstation. So with this, the booting procedure is over. So after that, you can see your login prompt or your screen. So that is the procedure, right? So like let me give a quick summarize of this one. So the very first thing it will do is when you turn on your system or power on, it would be doing the post, right? So power on self test, it will check all the components, receives the power, and if not, it will fail at the very first step. The next one is your booting your BIOS. So let me type it out here, right? So next one it will look for is the BIOS, right? So again, your BIOS is not in your hard disk, so it will be embedded in your motherboard only, right? So in the BIOS, the very important thing is your boot order. So let's say your boot order, your hard disk is the booting, like you formatted it as a booting disk. So next thing is it will look for is the MBR. So MBR full form is master boot record. And there are two ways of like defining that. So one is MBR and the next one is GPT. Okay, so MBR is your master boot record and the GPT is GUID partition. So almost your Windows will follow this one. So just go to your disk management and you can even verify yourself. Just right click to any one of the disk and see for the properties, right? So details or yeah, you just go to volumes and you can see partition style, right? So both has a different ways of formatting it and the partitions. So anyhow, you'll see this in your disk management, but yeah, you can see here, right? The partition style is GPT. So mostly in your Linux, the GPT is not used, right? So MBR is the preferred one in your Linux master boot record. Okay, so the next thing in your master boot record, it will boot is the Grub. So in your Grub, you can select which one to be booted. Let's say you have a dual boot, which one to be booted, right? So let's say we boot to the Linux one, and right away after that, it will load all the drivers and libraries. And the kernel is the one which will load all that, and your partition table, everything, it will be loading, right? So after that, which mode to be booted. So after that, which one, like let's say if you select init 3 by default, it will right away boot with the network driver also. And if you select init 5, it will go to the run level will be like your GUI. So you can see the actual graphical user interface, right? So yeah, and right away it will come to the login prompt. So that is your booting procedure. And okay, so let me give you the resource one. So for Mike and everyone, please do go to this link. So just click this link and bookmark it, right? So you can see all the ISO and everything would be here. And even this would have been posted in the, one sec, let me check myself. Yeah, it is not a downloadable one, I guess. I will check with the team. Okay, so yeah, so please do like, okay, so it is not downloadable. Okay, so we'll check with that. So the thing is that you just go to the drive link which I pasted in the chat, okay, or even I will send it in the notes today so that it will be easy for you guys to see. So this is the drive link. And the first thing you need to download is RHEL 8.4 ISO. Okay, so please do download this one, your ISO as well as your VMware Workstation Pro. So you need these two for sure. Okay, so yeah, and your Kitty. So Kitty is a fork of Putty. So Putty or Kitty. So either one you can use. I don't like push you to use only Kitty. You can even use your Putty as well. So it doesn't matter. But yeah, you must download all these three. Okay, so yeah, you just click that and download, right? So it will be downloading that. Yeah. So once you downloaded this one, then you can follow the thing which I'm going to do. So VMware Workstation Pro. Yeah. So these three, please do download. Yeah, even the resource, this one is, I'm not sure why they didn't send or made it the downloadable one. We'll check with the team. Okay. So yeah. So after you're downloaded and install the VMware Workstation Pro, and even the instruction would be there in this PDF file. Okay, so let me download and open it. So if you still having any doubts after the, like, after seeing this one as well, let me know tomorrow, because anyhow I'll be showing you how to install this one, your real installation. But yeah, it is nothing but a typical installation of any software in your Windows, right? So yeah, so you just open that once it is downloaded, right? So just click next. It will start installation, and this is the license key. Very important. And if you want, the key is also placed in the resource file, right? So the same key it would be. So if you don't paste the key, it will the evaluation version it will be installing, and it would be for only 60 days. So after that, it will again prompt you for the key. So please do enter the license key once it is prompting, right? So once installation is done, it will ask you to finish and launch the VMware Workstation. So once it launches, right away it will ask for the license key. So please do enter this one. So after that, you might see this screen, right? So this is your home dashboard of your VMware Workstation. So the very first thing you need to do is, again, you need to download this ISO first. So once everything in place, you just click on create a new virtual machine, right? So, and you need not select the typical one. Okay, so just select the custom, next. And this also you need not change. So what this is, like a hardware compatibility. So this is for VMware level. Let's say if I select Workstation 5, so you can see compatible products. So And there is even a limitation. Let's say if I can't even keep more than 4 gigs in memory if I use this old one. So these are all like 10 years or 15 years old version of the hardware. So you just select the late, or by default it will be selected the latest one. So you just ignore this one. So you can see now, right? This is the limitation is higher than what we have. So I have around 8 processors, right? So here you can maxed out of 32 processors. So that is the thing. And select your ISO location. Yeah, so you just select your ISO location, and you can even click this option as well. So you can even like mount your CD drive later, or you can do this one. So either way, it should be fine. Just click on next, and this will be the easy installation information, which means like it will skip the basic steps if you select this option. Okay, so you just type any name. I just give username, sorry, user 1, 2, 3, 4 as the password. And remember, this is very important point. This would be the password for your root account. So many would forget that. And yeah, so that is very, very important information. And this is again an important one. So if you have only C drive, you don't have any option. So you can install in this path, which is mentioned over here. If not, if you have more than one partition in your Windows, right, just select other than C drive. Why? Because we'll be installing a lot of disk and it will consume a lot of space, right? So if you have another partition, you just select that one. In my case, I'll be selecting, just click on this PC. I'll be selecting the last local disk F. So yeah, and I will create a new folder for it. VM, right? So just click OK. And you can even rename this to rel. Next. And how many processes you want to allocate for this particular VM? Again, this is a virtually we are allocating the process. Okay, so I just okay. I will just give you a basic rundown of what is virtualization quickly. So of course, you know the base OS is Windows 11 in my system. So base OS is that, and this is the one sec, let me type it out. This is my base OS. In my case, it is Windows 11. So virtually, I need to. So the virtualization is enabled. So that is very important. Enabled. Right. So once you enabled your virtualization, you can install your VMware Workstation. Right. So once VMware Workstation is installed, so on top of that only we are using our rail. Right. So rail 8 or 9, anything is. So that is your how your VMware works, right? So where to enable this virtualization, right? So that again depends on your laptop or your PC. So you just Google enable virtualization and type your HP or Dell, anything, right? So you can see it will show you, you just need to boot to your BIOS, and there it depends on each vendor, right? So you would have the virtualization technology in your HP, and in your Dell, it would be a different one. So just Google your enable virtualization, let's say Dell, or even your laptop whole model, you can mention over here. So it will show you in Dell, it will be VT-D. Okay. So once this is enabled only, you can see or you can, your virtualization will be working. Then only it will be working. Your VMware will be, right? So that is very, very important step this is. So again, where to verify your virtualization as of now is you just come to your task manager and come to the performance section and you can see the just select the CPU and you can see virtualization. If it is disabled here, you need to enable in your BIOS. You just follow the process which I just told, right? So just Google your vendor. Why? Because each vendor has its their own like settings, right? So you just follow that instruction and yeah. So why I told that is, so virtually we are using the processor. So in this case, I have around 8 cores, right? So from that one core, it will be virtually used for this VM, right? So what it does is, it is, so very important word here is called as resource sharing. So resource sharing it is. So what it does is, it will take the physical RAM. So RAM is of 8 GB in mind, and CPU is of 8 core, right? So it will take this one and yeah, virtually it will use this, like how much we can select that, right? So if I select 32, of course I don't have a 32 processors, right? So it will fail, it won't boot to that. So we can, so one processor is more than enough for our VM. Just click next, and here you can by default it will automatically analyze your RAM and it will select how much. So if you have 4 gigs of RAM, it will select only 1 gig. So if you set to 1024, then also it is fine. So yeah, 1024 is here 1 gig. So let me give 2048 only. So I can allocate 2 gigs of my RAM here. And this is your network connection. So you can select NAT or bridged network. So either one, it should be fine. So like again, what this means is your network card. So which way to be configured it is, right? So you just select only these two. Please don't select these two radio buttons, okay? And again, all this parameter which you are selecting, right? Again, you can change that in your VM options. Okay, so you need not worry if you messed up something. You need not worry. Again, you can change those, right? So you can keep this. So which way the IO controller should be. So you can keep this by default, SKC controller. And again, this one, if you select NVMe, so these are all the different types of your virtual disk, right? So if you select SATA or SCSI, IDE is the old one. Please don't select this IDE. Okay, so you can give NVMe by default, it will be selected. Just keep it by default. And of course, we don't have a virtual disk as of now, since we are creating a new drive, so or new operating system. So just click next. And by default, it will select for 20 gigs, right? So the minimum requirement, you can see recommended size for this operating system is 20 gigs. So you can select that. And you have two options. So what is these two options are? Sorry. Yeah. So let me explain you this one. So these two options are thin provisioning and thick provisioning. Actually, there would be an option right away to see this thin and thick in your VMware vSphere, but in your VMware workstation, you can see only these two options. So thin and thick provisioning is nothing but, let's say you have this hard disk of 20 gigs only we created just now, right? 20 GB. Okay, so you can format this and use it, use the whole 20 GB right away, or you want it to be used incrementally, right? So if if you have same 20 GB and incremental, like let's say you have 1 GB or you formatted it for 1 GB, right? So remaining 19 GB won't be populated in your hard disk, right? So that is this option. You can see split virtual disk into multiple files. Only if you start using that, it will be populating the whole container or the whole disk of 20 GB. So until that, it will be like the size, how much you utilize, it will be, right? So in this case, this is your thick provisioning, which means the whole 20 GB will be right away created. You can see here, right? Store virtual disk as a single file. So that file will be right away created if you select this one. So I'll go with the next second one to save some space. So just click next. And this is where which location you want to save your disk file. Well, this is very important, and don't select in a random path. Okay, so always keep or go to the same virtual disk where you created, sorry, your VM you selected, right? So go to the same path and type, or you create a new folder, and you can save there. So you can even give any name you want. So I just give one. Next. So that .vmdk is nothing but your VM disk. That is the full form of .vmdk. And these are all it is like a summarized version. What are all configuration we selected, right? So, and after that, it should right away boot after the creation. So in my case, I'm using SSD. So right away, it will boot to it will be a bit faster. Okay, so yeah. So if you see this screen, you're good to go. If you don't see and you are seeing a screen like DHCP is loading like that, your ISO is not mounted correctly. So you might see a error screen like images, DHCP error. Yeah. So you may see a screen like this. Yeah. So if you see a screen like this, then your server or your system doesn't recognize the boot disk. Okay, so then you need to, whatever we done right during the BIOS, you need to change the boot order. Then only it can see that disk, right? So if you see this error, you just need to follow that one. Again, the instruction for this as well is provided in the resources one. Okay, so yeah, I provided the drive link in the like I will be sending in the notes today. So you just follow this one. Everything would be here. Okay. So you can see here, right? Red Hat ISO installation in VMware. So all the instruction will be provided here. So it would take some time to install. Yeah. So final step. So that's it. So it will take some time and it will right away install and boot it. Right. So just wait. It will. Yeah. So, see, it will be selected automatically. That is the reason we selected the easy install option. So actually, we didn't select it. When you mount, it right away detected the Red Hat ISO, sorry, Red Hat 8, right? So it knows that these are all the options. So it will be installing automatically. Okay, so yeah, Hari Krishna, you can either use the one, is there any instruction to? Yeah, so even the instruction for VMware installation is also in your resource last, right? Naveen, right? So yeah, there is an instruction of this one as well, installation of VMware, as well as your Red Hat ISO. And if you, the Red Hat or RHEL 8.4 ISO, if you download and it is failing, yeah, so you can follow, or you can download this one, RHEL 8.4.torrent. And yesterday I shown you how to download the in torrent. You just Google for uTorrent or any torrent client if you want. So this is a basic one, right? So just click on download now. It will start the download and you can install that, right? So after that, you just open that ISO. That's it. Sorry, open that .torrent file. So it will download again. So both are same file only. Why? Because that in your torrent client, you can pause the torrent or anything you want, you can do. But here, since the size is a huge one, right? So if there is a network interruption, it will be like cancelled. So again, from first you need to download. So yeah, so it will install. So it would take some time. So is there any more doubts, anyone, on today's session?
Hi Karthik.
Yeah.
In this right now we are using a Red Hat Linux. In
Mhm.
most of the commands and syntax are same in other Linux flavors, or something will be it will vary.
Okay, so of course the commands will be different for each flavor, Sarana. Okay, but since CentOS would be the same because CentOS is owned by Red Hat, right? So each Linux flavor, right? So they have their own commands and it won't be very different, right? So again, top means it will be the current utilization. So most of the, like at least 80% of the commands, it will be the same. Okay, so you need not worry about that. And again, it depends on the company. So most companies prefer Red Hat. So that is the reason it is still in the market. And again, if you want, you can use the CentOS one. So CentOS is as of now, it is depreciated. You can see Rocky Linux. So this is the one. Again, this is owned by Red Hat. Okay, so Rocky or CentOS. You can install even CentOS and practice for our sessions. So it doesn't matter because all the commands would be same for both CentOS and Red Hat. Okay, so because it is owned by Red Hat company. So yeah. And mostly the package manager is the different one, Sarana, you would see. So in your Ubuntu, you would use apt get like that. Here you will use DNF or yum. So we'll come to that later. But yeah, some commands, of course, it will be different. So it will install the very important one. So please don't interrupt the installation like please don't quit this one because again, you need to build this. So sometimes it might even go to the not responding mode. Still, it will be installing. So you need not worry. Can we take install? Yeah, of course, Hari. You can do in your AWS. So I'll be showing how to do that in tomorrow's session. Okay. AWS and GCP, I'll be showing you how to install the VM. Okay. Tomorrow in the sense, Monday, we'll be seeing that. I'm failing while downloading directly. Okay, so torrent, let me 1 second, let me install uTorrent in my system. And I will show you. Okay, so I just downloaded the uTorrent from this link. So I will even give this link since many are having issue with the downloading. Right, so you just click on next. So it will start the installation. Next, agree. Okay, so just give next for everything. So no issues. In the meantime, let me see the problem. Okay, yeah. So it is downloaded, and let me open that. Right. So we just come to torrent. So as of now, there is no torrent, right? So you just download this one, right click, download the torrent one. So don't right click in the resource and download. It will, so just click open. I'm just opening that one, and you can see this one, right? The same 9.43 gigs it would be. Just click open. So it will start the download. Again, it depends on the speed of your internet. So in my case, it is downloading at 1.5 Mbps per second. So once it is like 100%, again you can like initiate your installation using your VMware. Okay, so this is how you can download in your torrent. And this is far easy and stable comparatively, because you can see, right? I can even stop or start anytime I want, right? So that is the thing. But in direct download, you can't do any of that. So, right. Yeah. So any other doubts, anyone? Let me see the progress. It is about to complete. So yeah, you can see here, right? It will be installing Firefox like that. Some of the third-party applications also would be installed along with the operating system. So yeah. So for the people who are having very less resource in your system, right? So please don't install. I don't recommend installing the VMware workstation. Rather, you can practice via cloud. So I will show you tomorrow. Means in the next session, how to install your VM in your cloud. Again, the same rel we will be using. So this would take some time. So yeah, if it is loaded to the login prompt, I can close the session. So yeah. I will send this link as well. Okay, so yeah, so it is almost done. I guess it is downloading the fonts and installing it. So if you have any issue in the payment, please do reach out to the group's admin. Okay, so yeah.
I have one question.
Okay.
It shows Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8.4.
Mm-hmm.
So the versions which are below than this,
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, I mean, does this version have anything improved as we compare it to its lower versions?
Okay, so yeah, that is a good question. The thing is that it depends on the like how we use Bharati. So most of the companies still I have seen many companies using Rail 7 as well. So Rail 7 and lower than that. So again, there is not much of a performance difference, right? So there might be some of the process wise, it would like let's say in your Rail 7, you will be using service command. So anyhow, you'll see these commands later. So you'll use service command. Here you will be using systemctl command. So like that, some of the minor changes are there, not a major one, actually.
Okay.
So
Actually, they say, Karthik, that
yeah.
now Ansible and all is also added to the newer versions. So that's why I asked that question.
Yeah, so RHEL 9 will come along with the Ansible and so. Again, it depends on the operating system which you install. So, like which version. So by default, it won't be installed Bharati. Like for RHEL 8, I would say. So for RHEL 9, yeah. So since Ansible is Red Hat bought the Ansible, so of
Mhm.
course it will be bundled with the one. So again, you can even select which, like if you don't want Ansible while uh, like installing, you can see this one, right? So RHEL 8, 9 ISO, you just go to this one. You can even exclude that. Without Ansible also, you can install this one. So just click on download. You can see here, right? So there are different versions and yeah, the size would be like a huge one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it would be bundled with the different packages. You can see this one is like 11 GB also. So yeah,
But
so
nowhere
anyhow,
in offices it will be used as of now. I don't think so because, as you
mhm.
said, they are even at lower versions than like
Yeah,
7.
why? Because most of the companies still, why they are using RHEL 7 and lesser than that, because still they have the subscription for those, right? So
Hmm.
anyhow, it Red Hat also works like a your Netflix. So it is based on the subscription, right? Once the subscription is or the license is ended, then only they will, if there is a need, only they will upgrade, right? So if there is no need for an upgrade, then they will keep the system as it is. Like it will be in RHEL 7 forever, like that. So it
Okay.
depends, right? So again, the like some of the like they would be doing the patching, right? So what is a patching is like minor bugs, it will be fixed. Okay, so in the same version. So as of now, RHEL 6 is depreciated. Depreciated in the sense it is like there is no support for that as of now. RHEL 6 or RHEL 5 and so. So that is the reason RHEL 7 is the market standard nowadays and RHEL 8. So most of the companies are migrating from RHEL 7 to RHEL 8 now only.
Okay.
So yeah, but for the consumer market, RHEL 9 is also there. So if
And what about, I mean, from certification perspective, if we talk now,
uh-huh.
which Red Hat they want us to use? If somebody wants to write certification now in 2023,
Yeah,
so
so you can use either RHEL 8 or 9. You have only two options, RHEL 8 and 9. So you
okay,
can't write a certification on RHEL 7. So that is
okay,
the thing. Yeah, it is depreciated. So you can register for the exam and you right away it will select the option as RHEL 9, but it will have like a drop down and you can select RHEL 8 as well. So you can write in either one of those.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So it is still installing. Okay, yeah, it is about to be completed. So
I have a question.
yeah, Mike.
Yes, I was wondering, the last batch
Uh-huh.
I I was taken out because of my job. I
Uh-huh.
didn't have time, I paid. On this one,
Okay.
I think Logitech has some discount for um all students that paid for the
Uh,
last batch.
okay. So
I want to
yeah,
pay for this. I want to pay for this one. Did they still run the discount of um
actually, I'm not sure how the like can you reach out to the group admin if possible, Mike? If
yes, I
po
will.
Yeah,
Yes, I
you
will.
just reach out to the group admin.
Yeah.
If you are still having issue, you just drop an email to me. I will make them. You just drop an email with your email ID, right? So I will make them like
Okay.
have a contact with you also. So
Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
yeah. So we are at the last step. So once it is done, it will be right away booting to the login prompt. So you need not worry about any of this in your cloud. So it will be instant, right? So yeah. Sorry for holding you for so long. So it is about to be completed. Yeah. So the installation is done, and you can see in the Grub screen, it right away showed the your operating system, right? So the one which we will boot. So yeah, if you see this screen, you just press down arrow and you can see what are all the processes or services it will be starting. So you can see almost every service which is starting. You can see network manager. Anyhow, we'll be seeing everything, almost everything. So yeah. Since there is another VM which is running, right? So that is the reason. Yeah, okay, awesome. So if you see this prompt, don't right away log in with your user one. Again, you can log in. So, or you can use not listed, type root and the password. So it will be the same password as the user I told, right? So you can give 1234 as well. So for the very first time, it will take some time to initialize. So let me open the Kitty. So Kitty is also in, you just Google Kitty. You can even use Kitty or Putty as well. So either one you can use. Just go to the first download page. You just click that and you can download that, or you can even have that in the resource section. Okay, so either way, you just download that and we need to see the IP of this system. So just go to your activities. So you can ignore all these warnings or alerts. Okay, so just go to your terminal and type if config -a. So you can see there would be an IP populated. So this is this server's IP. So just come to the Kitty and paste that IP and come click this section data. Okay, so type root and auto login is 1234. And don't right away click on open, just come to session again and save it. So new login or new lab, let's say, and save it. And now if you double click this or click on open, if you see this prompt, you need not worry about it. It is trying to connect to a foreign connection, right? So that is the reason it is checking for the host key. So just click on accept. Right away, it is booted to the same server which we are. So this is your remote desktop. The same procedure we'll be seeing tomorrow for the cloud servers as well, right? So yeah, so this is how you connect remotely. The same server you are connecting via remotely. So how to, let me show you a demo. So just, so this is the home part of the root user, right? So if I type touch one, so I'm just creating a file called as one, you can see here, right? So that's the thing. You're connecting the GUI and like accessing that via remotely. So that is the thing. So yeah, that's it for the day. It has been a long session. Sorry for that. But yeah, for the people who didn't pay it, please do pay. The next session will be a demo. And after that, only for the paid candidates, the link will be sent. So yeah. So then